Hey guys, Dr. Axe here with Dr. Dan Sullivan. Dr. Dan, really glad you're here today. You know, Dr. Dan is one of the world's leading experts in posture and neurological and spinal health. And so today we're going to be talking about surprising ways that posture can affect your health and your kids' health. And it's that time now where a lot of kids have just gone back to school. And we're going to talk a little bit about backpacks here. We're going to talk about looking at cell phones. And all of this information is really relevant both to kids and to adults. But Dan has 3 little girls at home and kids, and has done everything from, you and your wife practicing natural childbirth. I know you're a doctor. You've taken care of thousands of patients over the years, and a lot of pregnant moms and families. So we're going to talk today a lot about family health and posture, and we want to help spread the word about the dangers of backpacks, and also we're going to talk about things today. We'll answer some of your most commonly asked questions about things like ADHD and asthma and some other health conditions. But take a minute right now, help us spread the word that we're live right now. Take a minute, punch that share button, click that love button. Help us spread the word that food is medicine. And you know what? Lifestyle is medicine as well, and posture is important. So, Dr. Dan, you've got 3 kids. I know that you've taken care of a lot of families. Talk about the importance of posture, because we know over time, and even starting at a young age, kids today looking down at cell phones, carrying backpacks, they can start to get rounding in the spine. Before we even talk about for kids specifically, but what happens when somebody has poor posture in the body? I mean, it's not just pain, right? There are other things that can happen internally.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem is that a posture problem is a neurological problem. That's where most of us, I was growing up, I never understood this, right? You don't understand that your spine and your posture directly influence all aspects of function, right? From where you're breathing, there's just been loads of research on this and studies on this. And so, even, we always take people and put them in a poor posture, and have them breathe, right? Head forward, you can put your head forward and try to breathe, right? And then you take your head back. Right.
And do this for a minute. This is shocking. Again, put your head as far forward and down as you can and try and take a deep breath in. You literally can't do it. Yeah. Versus come back. Everybody do that right now and just see what happens.
Yeah, and that's like research alone, right? That's the evidence that we need to support how we need to be aware of this thing, right? So we know, and you any way you want to dial it. I mean, and it comes down to neurology. It comes down to your brain and your spine, spinal cord, and all the nerves are focused. I mean, there's a reason why, God created our posture in a certain way. There's a reason why it actually can bear so much load the way it is. And so the point is, we need to be aware of this. And as a society, we need to be more aware of this because of all the battles that we have, whether it be technology, backpacks, sitting at, 60% of the workforce is sitting in front of a computer. So we just know we're up against some big challenges.
Yeah, on this show, a lot of times we talk about supplements, we talk about essential oils and diet, but here's the truth. Your posture can affect your health just as much or more than smoking a cigarette, eating fried French fries. I mean, your posture is critical for your lungs breathing, your heart beating, your stomach, and your small intestine digesting food. It is critical that you have good and healthy posture. And by the way, we'd love to say hey to all the viewers right now. Take a minute right now. Let us know the city you're from, the state you're from, the country you're from, and we'd love to give you a shout out right now here on Facebook Live. So, Dr. Dan, we've got Carol Fields watching from Arkansas. Hey, Carol, thanks for joining us here today. We've got Nikki times Robin watching from California. Got a comment here from Deanna Stevens. She says, yes, the kids in backpacks, it's crazy. She says it's more weight than adults lift in a day on these little kids' backs. Yeah. Totally true. Terry Tiley's watching from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hey, Terry, thanks for joining us here today. And Christina Rulin watching from Palm City, Florida. Hey, Christina, thanks for being part of the show today, guys. So we're here with Dr. Dan Sullivan. Dr. Dan is an expert. He's a doctor of chiropractic. He is an expert in neurology as well as spinal health. And so today we're talking about backpacks. So, Dr. Dan, you talked about this forward head posture, the syndrome. Talk to us about this. So we got this little backpack here. Is this one of your kids' backpacks?
Yes, it is. This is my 4-year-old's backpack. Right?
Hallie?
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, and so, my wife puts it in just in case they forget, right? So one of the things that, and the point is, this is where I want, whether you're a listener out there and you have small kids, or even big kids for that matter, there are some easy things that you can do to counteract the stresses of backpacks, right? So that it doesn't. I was just telling you about it. And we know that this is crazy. 5,000 kids go into an emergency room directly related to backpack use. 14,000 kids get treated for some degree of backpack use injury or pain or ailment. What I'm most concerned about, just from all the work and work with patients and kids and families, is the problems that go undetected.
Yeah.
The problems that are created through repetition because they're putting too much weight, because it's not the right size, because they wear it on one shoulder, right? Or for you, maybe you don't have kids, but you're sitting at your desk and slowly that posture is eroding over time, and you're getting this. There was a study in a 2005 Spine Journal, one of the greatest journals in the world, and it literally is these 6 medical doctors. They evaluated a group of 298 individuals. And they measured objective findings, things that they could that they could measure, and then things that they felt, how they feel, the pain, their function, right? Heart rate, breathing, respiration, digestion, and every single, this is a kicker, every aspect of their health got worse as their posture deviation got worse.
Wow.
And so this doesn't go to show that, man, we've got to be more aware. You just mentioned before, there's a lot of articles going out right now saying that sitting is the new smoking. Why? Because sitting over time erodes our posture, and what we know from a neurological standpoint is your spine gets involved and your brain gets involved because of all the neurology that's happening. And so the point, what can they do? Man, we've got to start being aware of it first and taking steps to counteract it.
Yeah, it's huge. And just something that Dr. Sullivan's talking about here. Think about this. Every one of those areas, your digestion gets worse when you have poor posture. Your heart beating, your heart, your digestion, even your hormones, your lungs, your organ function gets worse when you have poor posture. So think about all the kids today with these backpacks that are weighing 30 pounds on their back or whatever, even 10 pounds, and that's, it's causing them to move forward, that forward head posture. I know my grandfather, had that just severe kyphosis, and a lot of times we see this in the elderly, but we're seeing this in more and more kids today, and actually affecting their organ function. I know it's absolutely tied to the condition asthma. You see a lot of kids with asthma today. That can be a contributing factor. So, Dr. Dan, what are some of the solutions let's talk about kids first, then let's talk about adults at work, because there's plenty of adults as well. Adults today, it can start with pain. I mean, if you have pain in your mid-back, and your traps, a lot of that is poor posture, even in your low back. So anywhere in your spine or neck, that can really start with poor posture as well. So we'll talk about adults, but let's start with kids. What are some of the things we can do to combat backpacks?
Yeah. So 3 things. There's 3 major things. And I'm a simple guy. I like the research and I kind of go analytical for a while, but I want to keep it simple, right? I'm a guy, so give me the meat and potatoes. So the 3 things that I think every parent should know as far as a backpack, and that we know, right? One is get a backpack that actually fits your child, right? Because if it doesn't fit, right? In fact, one of the things is it should never go 4 inches below their waistline, right? It's a good kind of line of thinking is never should go. So you got to get one that fits. Number 2, make sure both straps are always on. Most even kids, they want to have one strap, right?
Yeah. What
that does is that imbalances. So make sure both straps are worn. And then here's the kicker: is that it should never be more than 15% of their body weight. What the weight that's in a backpack should never be more than 15%. Arguably, if you can, you want to go, you got kids that want to throw everything in there, but less than 15%. You do those 3 things, you're starting to counteract the stresses or imbalances that would weigh on them. And it's not this one-time thing. It's not because they did it one day. It's literally because of the repetition. You put 5 days a week, and semester on semester, and eventually it wears and tears. So those are the top 3. Make sure it fits, make sure both straps are always on, and make sure it's less than 50% of their body weight. And I think with those, you're already kind of defeating the challenges.
Great advice. And hey, if you're enjoying this live training, I know both myself and Dr. Dan, we really care about kids' health, and I know you do as well. So we want to help transform the lives of kids and children in school age and see them have healthy spines and healthy organ function over time. Hey, help us spread this word. Take a minute right now, punch that share button, click that love button, help us spread the word that posture is important for your health, and we got to know more about backpacks. Let's talk about adults here, Dan, and then we're going to talk about some other things. We're talking about cell phones a little bit and some other things too. For adults that are sitting all day, people that are working at a computer most of the day, what are some of the best tips you have for them?
Yeah. Number 1, and this is somewhat unorthodox, because you think we immediately go to, okay, what can I do? And those are my number one thing is to drink more water. Right? Number one, why? Because one, we know it hydrates the disc, we know it hydrates joints, and it makes muscles more fluid. But the other thing it does is it actually forces you to get up and go to the bathroom, right? And that may sound somewhat simple, elementary, but what we know is small, and this is number two, small breaks more frequently. Research has shown small, more frequent breaks always win over a longer, lengthier break. For instance, every hour getting up for a minute or two is more valuable than you waiting for 2 hours to get up for 20 minutes, or waiting every 3 hours to get up for an hour, right? So the point is small repetition. So more water, small, more repetitive breaks, right? And then 3 is your workstation, right? So, this is where, make sure you got a good chair, make sure you got good lumbar support, that pushes those shoulders back. And then this is the key when it's technology, eye level or looking up. Right?
Yeah,
the minute you're here and you're doing that repetitive over time, that just starts to devastate. Like you said, I don't get concerned about the fact that cosmetically you look worse. None of us like to look hunched posture. I am more concerned about what's happening on the inside of your body. Heart rate, breathing, respiration, digestion, all of those are directly linked to this posture because of the spine and the neurological influence, from posture.
Yeah, it's great advice, Dr. Dan. And we actually got a great comment here from a couple people. One is from Fania Western, another one from Merceda. They ask, isn't it a good idea to buy the backpacks with wheels on them?
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, right?
It is. Yeah, if you can, that is the ideal scenario. Again, not everyone's going to do that, but yes, if you could buy backpacks with wheels, absolutely, that is the way to go. Great comments there, guys. Really smart. So, Dan, another thing that happens too, and I don't know if there's an exact solution to this, but kids and adults looking down at cell phones like this all day long. Any solutions or thoughts on combating that?
Yeah. Again, awareness is always number one, right? Being aware, right? Because that next thing you know, you're doing this for extended periods of time, being aware. And then, if you've got a child, make sure they're aware, right? Because they don't necessarily feel that because they're just, pliable and all that. But I think, again, the key is being able to counteract. You've got to be doing things everything is here. We've got to be doing, and I can really go through 10 different stretches. The point isn't the exact things, it's just doing it, right? Bringing those shoulders back, doing stretches throughout the day, getting your head back, counteracting, getting those muscles mobile, more pliable. Again, I can't, iterate enough the water thing because of the pliability of muscles and making sure you're just counteracting those stresses. Because, I'm here the same way. Like, I'm on my devices. Like, I live in the world. But we try to counteract that by moving, exercise, working out, being aware, more water sort of thing.
Yeah, and a couple other tips or things to think about. I know for myself in my office upstairs here, we're in my house right now in Nashville, but I got a standing desk, so a standing desk can be a great thing. In fact, I have more energy, I get more done at a standing desk, so that's a great option business-wise, getting a standing desk. Another thing to consider, as Dan talked about, is, I'd set an alarm on your phone, get up for 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes every hour, and get up and move is another thing to consider. And then you can even just get bands, you just get a really light band and just doing sort of rows or just pulling apart, kind of working on opening up, that pec region and strengthening the back muscles. Great thoughts and advice there. So, by the way, if you guys have questions, we would love to answer your questions. And it could be about posture, it could be about kids' health, maybe you have a child with ADHD or acne or autism and you're wondering, hey, what are some natural approaches? And I'm here with Dr. Dan Sullivan. Dr. Dan is a doctor of chiropractic. He is a neurological expert. And before we answer questions, last thing I want to mention here, Dr. Dan, is when you have kids that have poor posture, having problems, I know one of the things that you did in your clinic, and both of us recommend people go see a chiropractor. Because a lot of people today, if you've got a spinal issue, when you go today to a lot of conventional doctors, this is really unfortunate, oftentimes even to kids today, this blows my mind, they will prescribe medications. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and a lot of these drugs today, they've been shown to cause kidney damage, liver damage, and bleeding of your GI, your gastrointestinal tract. So what you want to be doing is finding a natural approach to improve posture. What a chiropractor will actually do very specific adjustments to help really, if spinal segments have lack of mobility, get range of motion. They were kind of allowed, because some people feel, and you might feel this way, Do you feel like maybe your posture is so bad now that you can't stand up straight? Literally, you almost feel like it's impossible for you. Well, that can be because you have immobility, inflammation, and damage in a spinal segment. Chiropractors, right, Dan, can remove that interference and allow people to have their posture improved.
The entire, an entire profession, right, dedicated towards improving this thing called posture.
Yeah.
The missing link, and we started off this, here talking about this, the missing link is what most people don't understand is that it's so directly linked to every aspect of healing and function. Right, and the best literature today is supporting how your posture directly influences. So a profession called the chiropractic profession, right, chiropractors, are dedicated to actually finding these small little abnormalities, what we call subluxation, these interferences in the nerve system that will force this posture and prevent you from actually having full range of motion back and getting back into the prime posture, right?
Yeah.
Especially in children who may not have the symptom of back pain or neck pain yet, but then that interference really, really wreaks havoc on the health and function. It's like, man, you just didn't know because it didn't appear to be anything related to the back. And we've been dealing with this for 120 years in chiropractic. Most people don't understand how their spine is so directly related to every aspect of healing and function. So to your point, yeah, finding the stress spots, a chiropractor is specifically dedicated to finding the stress spots, removing the interference, and that helps these kids open up, and we see, you see endless amounts of, healing happening and conditions and symptoms going away, all direct to the spine and neurological connection.
This is great, Dr. Dan. We got a question here from Patty. She says, yes, please, please give me natural approaches for autism, GI issues, and seizures. Let's talk about autism here specifically, Dr. Dan. I know that you've practiced, chiropractic and nutrition for a while, taking care of a lot of patients. And by the way, let me mention this with autism. A lot of times, and I've taken care of thousands of children with autism over the years. And one of the things that I would note, I found in all of them across the board, they all had a digestive issue, and they all had a increased sympathetic nervous system response. And so one of the key things, this is huge, listen, if you're watching this right now and you've got a child with ADHD or a child with autism, one of the things that happens, and two very, very different conditions, but both of them have an increased sympathetic response. A lot of, hyperactivity, outbursts, and things like that. Why is that? Their nervous system, there's an imbalance there. One of the things that we've seen, and I know you've seen in practice, is that actually chiropractic adjustments of the upper cervical neck and of the sacrum can actually help your parasympathetic nerve system in calming children, right?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And the data and the evidence and the research to support that is really building like crazy, right? Because, and again, the clinical results, right? We know that even children that are on the spectrum, right? The autistic spectrum, a lot of times, if again, I bet we've been around them, you hear the stories. They love to be hugged. They love pressure. They love big comforters. And why is that? Because what happens is when you put pressure on them, it actually stimulates part of the brain that calms the body.
Yeah.
So what a chiropractor does is he finds areas of stress in the area and calms that nervous system by removing the subluxation. And it just goes to show their nervous system is so heightened, right? And they're in this sympathetic dominant state, and that's what we unravel it. Their spine and their nervous system's connection to that. And then you top in, what you constantly talk about is healing that gut and changing that. You put those two combinations, I've never seen a child not have a dramatic improvement in their symptoms and in their function when you do those.
Yeah, it's great advice. So we're looking at, okay, if a child has autism, number one, again, really looking at, you got to improve that parasympathetic nerve system, finding a chiropractor that works on the upper neck, that atlas bone, as well as sometimes the sacrotuberous ligaments of sacrum can be greatly beneficial. And then diet-wise, here's the big thing. You got to get rid of foods that cause that sympathetic, that fight or flight response in the body. There are things that your body recognizes as, hey, these shouldn't be here. We're talking about gluten. We're talking about processed sugar, refined grains, hydrogenated oils, but especially the gluten and the processed food products. Get those out of the diet, and you want to consume foods that help repair, that help heal and seal the gut lining. That really starts with chicken broth. Chicken broth is high in type 2 collagen, which is part of what makes up the gut lining. So chicken broth can be great. So again, a bone broth made from chicken is great. Also getting cooked vegetables. Really the key is this: consuming foods that are easy to digest so your body can heal itself. That's really the key principle there. Cooked carrots, doing, again, just chicken soup, things like that, things that are very easy to digest for kids. that's the staple diet. So again, it's cooked vegetables, it's some fruit like pears and blueberries are good for the gut and GI tract, some omega-3 fats, maybe some probiotic-rich foods. And that's really the ideal diet for children with autism. So doing that, increasing parasympathetic nerve system, are really going to help the gut, the GI tract, and also could potentially help seizures, getting those omega-3s adjustments and working on the gut there as well. All right, we've got some other questions here that we'll check out here. A question here from Lisa. Here's what she said. She said, I have MS, multiple sclerosis, and a chiropractor has helped me in amazing ways. I absolutely love my chiropractor because he helped my MS. How's that possible, that a chiropractor could help multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, it's first off, thank you for that comment. Lisa, thank you for that comment. I mean, that's the stuff that just, and most people are out there asking the same question. How could that be possible? What most, again, we're just not, I was raised more in a medical family, and, my mom's a nurse, I got brothers are medical doctors, so I didn't understand this until I began studying chiropractic, studying neurology, studying the spine, that the spine is so directly related to so many aspects. One of the things with MS is we've got cerebrospinal cord fluid that runs in between, around the spinal cord, and when there's not mobility in the spine, what they call that CNS is really, or the cerebrospinal fluid is feeding the CNS, that central nervous system, and when that's not moving appropriately, the CNS is altered. And so that's one of the ways that when the spine is corrected and or moving more appropriately through chiropractic, is that it actually starts to feed that central nervous system because of the cerebrospinal cord fluid, let alone it helps the brain on so many aspects. So those are the testimonies, especially with, autistic children. I mean, we've seen it, thousands of times. A child that came in that was not verbal, and then next thing you know, they come in, a few weeks later or a month later, and the parents said, I love you for the first time to me, right?
Yeah,
like what that means to that. And this is the thing, again, if you're out there like, man, I've never heard that a chiropractor could do something like this. And that's what we wanted to drive home, that, man, there's not only science behind it, there's an entire profession behind it, but it's really simple. The spine is related to your brain, your central nervous system. And when you start to align those things, man, you can get some amazing results. But like you said, they keep going back and back and back, and there's more drugs and more diagnosis. And we want to try to alter that path and say, hey, there is answers.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I got another question here, and I'm here with Dr. Dan Sullivan. He's a doctor of chiropractic. He is an expert when it comes to the brain and the nervous system. And so we're talking today about posture specifically, and now we're answering your common health questions. I got a question here from Debbie. By the way, if you're enjoying this live broadcast as well, hey, make sure to take a minute right now. Help us spread the word of the importance of posture and spinal health. Take a minute, punch that share button, click that love button. Help us spread the word. We got a question here from Debbie. What is the best type of mattress for kids and adults? I have some recommendations here. I've got several brands that I think are great. You want to look for a bed that really is responsive to your body. You don't want something that's sinking. When a bed sinks, it's unresponsive. You want something that comes up in, if you've got a curve here, when we're talking about where your QL muscle is on the side, you want something that comes up and gives support along the entire spine and really firm support. So a few bed companies I really love. There's a company called IntelliBed out of Utah that's absolutely fantastic. You can check it out, IntelliBed. Another great company is BioPosture. They do more of a natural, memory foam. And another company, a similar thing, and I know it's not memory foam, but sort of that natural type of foam. And another company called Naturepedic has a pretty good organic mattress there as well. But those are three companies I've used before personally in my homes and recommend. So there's some that you might consider there as well. All right, let's see here. A few more questions. Henry Barfield says, hey, from Chicago. Hey, Henry. Thanks for joining us here today. Peggy says, this is amazing for parents. All parents need to know this. Let's see here. Other questions. Do you mind explaining? Okay, I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Everyone's just saying they love this. They're loving this episode here as well. All right. I think somebody here says you're really hot, Dan, and good looking. That's great. That's really kind. All right.
Oh, my wife. Was it my wife?
No, someone else actually. So I'm sure your wife does think you're pretty. So here's another question. What do you guys recommend if somebody does have a curvature of a spine or a scoliosis? What do you recommend they do for that? Do you recommend they see a chiropractor?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Yeah, and a chiropractor that is focused directly on posture and restoring curvatures, right? There's people that expert, the thing about chiropractic is just like in any other field, some, specialize in different areas, right? And there's many that specialize in actually curve restoration or postural restoration. And so, yeah, I highly recommend, we've seen it over and over in offices, how we can, prevent somebody from a scoliosis surgery. Speaking of that 2005 study I referred to, their recommendation when they saw that posture was directly linked to all these, functions, their recommendation was surgery to prevent it from getting worse, right? Put rods in there. And this is what we're saying is like, man, if they only knew, they're not bad people, they're great guys, they're very intelligent, but if they only knew that there was ways to combat that and actually restore that, gosh, they would be able to have a better.
Yeah, and let me say this. Here's the problem with spinal surgery. Spinal surgery, you got to have two things going on in your spine. Maybe more than that. I'll touch on this. But you got to have proper curves, but you also have to have proper mobility. And the problem with putting rods in the spine as with scoliosis is, yeah, you may improve the scoliosis, the curvature. The problem is now you decrease mobility. If you don't have movement in a joint, arthrosis builds up, or arthritic changes build up, and lack of nutrients getting in and out of the disc. So you have actually even faster degeneration. So the key is both having proper curvature and posture and good, healthy, normal mobility of the joint there as well. And that's where we're working with a chiropractor who does typically both things, chiropractic adjustments, and gives you exercises to do to help really strengthen and build muscles around those joints as well and improve flexibility, and those things in combination. And there are several great docs who are sort of leading the field in this. You've got Dr. Dennis Wogan, who runs clearinstitute.com. You can check him out. Deed Harrison, who runs CBP. Dr. Tony Nalda. So there are several doctors who are really leading this field in terms of chiropractic scoliosis care. And what I would do is just Google search. If you know you need a chiropractor that can help with scoliosis specifically, just Google search chiropractor scoliosis in your city. So chiropractic scoliosis Nashville, looking that up in your city, and you can probably find a good doc that way there as well. All right, guys. Well,
I don't know if anybody asked this, because another thing when you refer to it, somebody had referred to something about a mattress. It reminded me of bed. Like, how do you sleep, right? So so many questions about what's the best posture to sleep. And again, I don't want to be too confusing. I keep it simple. The one thing you want is you just think about what position your body is naturally in, the curvature of your body. You want to support the curvature of your body. The ideal position is actually, on your side, pillow between your legs, and a supportive pillow that supports the curve of the neck. If you roll to your back, a supportive pillow that supports the curve of your neck. You can also, put a pillow or like a cylinder underneath your low back. It's the things that support these natural curvatures that are so helpful, in sleep. Which again, there's so many layers to this. But don't make it harder than what it is. Tummy sleeping is the worst because you can't, there's no natural way for your neck to lay, right? And so then it ends up being in a bad position. So just some simple tips for sleeping. Yeah,
it's good. All right, just got a comment here. Actually, this is a text message from my wife. I can't believe you didn't shave your beard for this video. So that's...
I was going to actually say at the beginning, Dr. Action tried to see him with the beard. Everybody's probably digging the beard.
Oh, yeah. Except for my wife, so she wants me to shave it off. So anyway, so a few days, maybe I'll shave it off. So... all right, so again, we've been here with Dr. Dan Sullivan. We've been talking about correcting posture. We've been talking about backpacks and how those can cause, and I want to mention, this is probably what I believe the most important point that Dr. Sullivan made this episode is that when you have poor posture, and again, do this. If you're getting on late, we did this at the beginning of the episode. Take your head, put it as far forward and down as you can, okay, like this. Now try and take a deep breath in. You can't do it versus come back, sit up tall, take a deep breath in through your whole stomach. When you have, there's medical research that Dr. Dan quoted earlier, that when you have that forward head posture that so many kids now are developing from cell phones and backpacks and sitting all day, what happens is it actually decreases, can affect your heart, your lungs, and your digestive system, causing poor digestion in kids early, which is the root cause of most diseases today. It is critical that we work on kids' posture. So hey, if you've enjoyed this video or you know other parents who need to know this, hey, share this video, help us spread the message. You can go back, click on videos on this Facebook page. And hey, if you're not subscribed here, make sure you subscribe here. I've got an episode coming up here in a couple days. I'll be talking about essential oils and new essential oils you may not have heard of, from turmeric to holy basil to black cumin and his black seed oil. So we're doing our training on that next time. I want to say, again, thanks here to Dr. Dan Sullivan, doctor of chiropractic, neurological expert. He's one of the guys that spends a lot of time looking at medical studies and really bringing the research, getting this out to chiropractors as well. So I want to thank him for being on the episode. I want to thank you guys for watching, for sharing the video. Hey, have a great rest of your Friday, and I'll see you real soon on Facebook Live.